my name is Ayana. Ayana in Swahili, an African dialect, means beautiful blossom. And although my name comes from Africa, I and my family have lived in America all our lives. So today, while you're here celebrating holidays around the world, I'd like to share a story with you about Kwanzaa, an African-American holiday that begins on the day after Christmas. But first, I need to know, who here has heard of Kwanzaa before? Ah, very good. Well, some people believe that Kwanzaa is the African-American Christmas, but that's not so. Like me, many people celebrate Christmas at Kwanzaa. And it's not a religious holiday either. It's a cultural celebration. Began in 1966 here in America by a man. His name was Dr. Malama Karenga. Now, he came up with the idea for this holiday after observing harvest festivals taking place all over Africa. At these festivals, the people often celebrate the gathering of first crops or first fruits. To say first fruits of the harvest in Swahili, you would say Matunda ya Kwanzaa. So although Kwanzaa is not an African tradition, the 7 days of Kwanzaa is a time when African Americans can celebrate the values that connect us to our African ancestors, as well as to those of African descent living all over the world. Now, Dr. Karenga called those values the Nguzo Saba, another Swahili phrase. Can you say that for me? Nguzo Saba.
Saba.
Yes, and that means 7 principles. So on each one of the 7 days of Kwanzaa, we celebrate a different principle. Now, some will celebrate with singing, dancing, or drumming. And another is a ceremony where we light a candle to represent each principle. You see the red, black, and green candles here on the Kwanzaa Kinara. Oh, I have an idea. How about you count along as I recite the 7 principles in a Swahili African dialect, all right? We start with number 1, umoja.
Umoja.
2, kujichagulia.
Kujichagulia.
3, you just have to count.
3.
3, ujima. 4, ujamaa.
5.
Yes, nia. 6,
6.
Kuumba, and
7.
Imani. That is the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Now, I could tell you the meaning behind each one of those words, but I think you'll enjoy it more learning the meanings if I tell you a story. It's a Kwanzaa fable, okay? And all of you can help me tell it, right? Okay, so first I need to see who my drummers are. Who's got a drummer? All right, thank you very much. I also need to know where my marketplace musicians are. Anyone with a shaking instrument? Okay, we've got a couple of shaking instruments. Very good. All right, now let me see the hands of some boys and girls who want to have a little fun. Even the big boys and girls. Yeah, all right. Okay, so, as I said, this is a fable, a fun way of learning the meaning behind the words, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Now, like many stories celebrating Kwanzaa, this one takes place in Africa. The time is many, many, many years ago, in a busy little village called Umoja. The story goes that the people of this village were hard-working people. From before sunup until after sunset, they worked, growing food, fishing, building up the village, and taking care of their families. On a day like today, you could often hear the villagers as they went to work. They would greet each other, Umoja! Umoja. The principle celebrated on the first day of Kwanzaa means coming together or working in unity. Even the children would sometimes imitate their parents and call out, Umoja! Come on, let's say the word. Umoja. Very good, which means getting along at play in unity. Now, the village had a wonderful king, King Kujichagulia. He had become king of the village when it was very poor. But he encouraged the people when he said, "We don't have to be poor. We are the ones who determine our future. Working together, we can make life better for ourselves and our families." Even his name, Kujichagulia, means self-determination, the 2nd principle of Kwanzaa. Can you say his name for me? Say Kujichagulia.
Chagulia.
Kujichagulia.
Kujichagulia.
Yeah, that one's fun 3 times in a row. Now, that's a good name for a king, don't you think?
Oh, yes.
So when the king was not meeting with his advisors, he was hunting with the men or working beside the other villagers in the fields, which is how this particular harvest season, he saw something that concerned him. So he called to his top 3 advisors, "Come, Come right away. Standing on the rooftop of the tallest building in the village, he said to his advisors, "What do you see?" His first advisor said, "I see how hard our village works." The king replied, "Is that all that you see?" "Well, yes. It is time for the first fruits of the harvest, and our people love to work." But still this worried the king, so he said again, Come walk with me." So they went to a place where a group of men were building a new school for the village. The sound of their hammers beating posts into the ground was like this. Next the king turned to his advisors and said, "Now what do you see?" His second advisor said, "I see Ujima. See how well the men work together?" Ujima, which is the principle celebrated on the third day of Kwanzaa, means working collectively together. Hey, let's show the others how the men work together by hitting our drums, all right? Play along with me. Very good. That is Ujima. So next, the king led the advisors into the marketplace. Oh, imagine a sea of people buying and selling and calling out, "Fruits, yams, muhindi," which is corn. Some sold handmade umkekas or kinaras and beautiful kente fabric. And there were musicians there too, with instruments to sell. The sound their instruments made was this, a wee-mo-way, a wee-mo-way. All right, everybody with a shaking instrument, let me hear you play. A wee-mo-way. There you go. Shake those tambourines. Yes. A wee-mo-way. A wee-mo-way. Yes, the marketplace was lively, just like that. So then the king turned to his advisors and said, "What do you see?" His third advisor said proudly, "I see Ujama. The marketplace is rich because we buy from each other." And did you guess? That's the fourth principle of Kwanzaa, Ujama, which means buying and selling from each other to become rich and strong. Can you say that with me? Ujama. Very good. So then the king and his advisors walked about the village for the rest of the day. Now in the thick bush just beyond the village, they could hear a group of men working. They were hunters, and they were tracking animals and making calls of the wild. And then they could hear some of the women who were at home. They were working as well, putting their babies down for a nap and singing, "In the jungle, the mighty jungle," or some sweet lullaby like that. But still, at the end of the day, the king was unhappy, and his advisors worried that nothing seemed to make him happy. The king paced. "I hear the men with their hammers. I hear the musicians in the marketplace. Away. The hunters in the wild. And the women with their lullabies. But still, can't you see?" he said to his advisors. "Something is missing." And then suddenly, there were shouts of young boys playing. "Woohoo! Woohoo!" The children were already out of school and at play. And the boys chased the circle around the king, crying, "Woohoo! Woohoo!" Come on, let me hear some of you. "Woohoo! Woohoo!" Yes, and the girls were at play too, patting their hands together like this. Come on, pat with me. Yes, making mud cakes and such, beating a rhythm with their hands and feet. And the king realized that while the parents and brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters, were still at work, the village was overrun with little children. "That's it!" exclaimed the king. "Look at our children! What we were missing was right before our eyes." "What was right before our eyes?" asked the advisors. "He who lives to work soon finds himself working to live. But now that I see, I have a plan." And so he sent his advisors away with a message for the village. The next morning, he wanted everyone to meet at the marketplace to work. But he wanted everyone to bring their first fruits of the harvest. Remember the Matunda ya Kwanzaa? All right, so then the next day, with everyone assembled, the king greeted the people. "Villagers of Umoja, every day we go our separate ways to work. But this year will be the best harvest ever because this year we have come together with Nia." Nia. The fifth principle of Kwanzaa means purpose. "I have learned a valuable lesson from our children. After they work at school, they play. So should we. When we work, it should be with a purpose. What is missing from our work is celebration. And then the king led the village in a celebration that began like this. First, he asked the men to beat their hammers like they did every day. Come on, drummers. Very good. Can you keep that going? All right. Next, he led the marketplace musicians to play their instruments. Yes, very good. And then some of the boys started to cry out, woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Yes! Woo-hoo! And then the girls and everyone else started to clap their hands. Yes, come on, everyone else, put your hands together. And then the women started to sing their lullabies. And all together it sounded something like this. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. Oh, the sound coming from the village was like music as they danced and played and expressed kuumba, which means creativity. It was wonderful, and you were wonderful. Give yourselves a hand.
Yes.
And you know, when friends and family get together, no one wants to go home. And so they celebrated for 7 days. That's just like Kwanzaa. They gave Zawadi handmade gifts, drank from the kukumbi, the unity cup, and ate marvelous food. That too is just like Kwanzaa. And so finally, the king made an announcement to end the celebration, just as an elder might do on the 7th day of Kwanzaa. Today, we celebrate Imani, which means faith. And faith is believing in our hearts that we have something worth passing on to our children. Now I see that it is more than work. It is unity, self-determination, work, wealth, purpose, creativity, and faith itself. And to have all of that, it takes a village. And so finally, the king, his advisors, and all the people were truly happy. Yay! And so you see, our story is very much like Kwanzaa. From December 26th through January 1st, over 18 million people all over the world celebrate this holiday. And it truly is like a happy village coming together in celebration. And so my wish to you, as you celebrate this holiday season, is that you too will experience unity, creativity, purpose, and joy. Thank you so very much for sharing my story. And happy Kwanzaa, everyone!
Happy Kwanzaa to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.